Justin. It is whew, got a little bit of background noise. Somebody's opening up a shop later on or this morning. This is a walk and talk for June 25th, 2024. Getting ideas rattling around inside the head, outside the head, to a place where they can potentially become useful. I'm going to go long form today for about 30 minutes, and going to work on the back end of trying to break this down into some individual pieces and yeah, that's the whole name of the game, right? Is to go from what's top of mind in the moment, and or what's on the mind of the moment, getting it spouted out into a brain dump out there into the world, creating a long piece of content that people can interact with, and then they can interact with both live, listen to after the fact, and then or potentially use, and then start breaking that down into its smallest components so that it can be reused for multiple other purposes, both as I guess we'll call them tripwires for creating new things, creating new piece of content, new ways of being able to work, and new ways of being able to connect. So it's starting very close with the brain, what's on the brain and what we're working on. And there's a couple of gaps here. Um, just the fact that we're actually doing some recording, there's some self-consciousness that goes into it, but it is the closest to stream of consciousness. I'm able to not look down as recording, so I'm just going for a walk right now, which is has the guard down from any sorts of normal stress. So just going for a walk and doing the recording. Second piece is we are yeah, and then second piece is just talking whatever's like top of mind. So the mind spitting out of control and going in the wrong direction starts to get suppressed, I guess, or it's not even suppressed; it's expressed in the right way. We start to express our thinking in the correct way, and then it gets recorded and shared out live. And then on the back end, we also get a transcript, and the transcript can be used, broken down pieces for other yeah for other work, right? And so this is then yeah to get and then can get shared out in some sort of the micro components. Because is somebody going to sit and listen to 30 minutes of brainstorming? Potentially not, but but somebody take a look at 15 seconds, take a look at 20 seconds of brainstorm. But it's the whole purpose of being able to pool all this information um, into into different systems to start to make it useful. So when I take a look at this, is transcript breaks down into just a video can break down into multiple videos that can get shared on multiple different platforms. That can bring us back down to the live stream, and they can also have us start to be yeah to bring back into the live stream and then have us start being uh, um, start figuring out where people where we can have the biggest amount of impact on other people, both like in the moment and then after the fact and later on. And so that's the whole name of the game. I'm looking at yesterday. Woke up at 2 o'clock in the morning yesterday, and my mom had surgery yesterday. She's fine. It was and then you know got about 3 hours of sleep, which is a quick indicator that um, something is awry. So got rested up, feeling great this morning. Woke up at 5 o'clock this morning, out recording by 5:30. Had to do a couple of different things before we get started. Did a little bit, some push-ups. Not at the gym, so not doing any weightlifting this morning. Did some push-ups before we got started, and then started off for the walk. The goal with this will be, it's 5:48 right now, so go till do this live stream until about for 30 minutes, and then break down. Actually, might even do 20 minutes. Break down the audio on break down the audio on the back end into some other clips that can get posted in different places. So it's taking the long form audio and then breaking it down into some of the smaller clips that can get posted in multiple different places. That's the whole name of the game, with the goal of being able to put out 80 pieces of like 80 ideas or 80 piece of micro content each day. And then After that, we'll start to get some metrics. What are people responding? What are people listening to? What are people responding to? What is what's meaningful? What's meaningful for what's meaningful for people both on the kind of the micro level, and what's potentially meaningful people on the macro level, and then what's the stuff that we actually want to talk about a lot more, and then we'll dig into that type of dig into that type of work, that type of work a lot more. So the whole concept is to go from an idea, so one, to stop the mind from spinning, to get some exercise, which propels us forward from a health perspective, to speak the thoughts out there into the world, and then have them be useful on the back end, and then kick off some workflow that not only has them be useful to us, but kind of useful as, in mass, and when compared to when collapsed with some other things. So this, and that's the whole name of the whole name of the game. And then I thinking inside of the framework from the book The Art of Impossible, which talks about passion recipe, and where do you have the collision of your passions, right? It's not even the collision, but the cross section of the passions, those things that we can talk about all of the time, that starts to lead to so things can just start flowing through to their meaningful place. And if we do the mental exercise of, hey, if we do this type of work for 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, whatever it is, then you start getting very good at it, and we start to not having to put the hands on the keyboard, which is the whole name of the game. And then also don't have to, and have to, I think, is the key point there, don't have to do work that is synchronous. Now, sometimes synchronous work makes sense, and when I talk about synchronous work, that's meetings, typically virtual meetings. In-person meetings, typically ignoring all the overhead that goes into it, like having to get there and getting scheduled, are better, right? Doing stuff in person is better, but we don't have the option of being able to do it. Doing virtual meetings, not necessarily as as powerful or impactful. Yes, not necessarily as powerful or impactful, just because it's requires people to be at the same place at the same time. Depending on what type of organization, might necessarily be able to do the recording, and requires people to be in the right mood, and then only one person can actually be talking at a time, and it's very difficult to start doing the right amount of listening to make that work. And I'm thinking about it like, how do we be in virtual meetings to have the greatest number of impact, right? How do people work together in a successful virtual meeting to start to make stuff work? I think that'd be an interesting research project. An interesting research project, just to see like where we start to see meetings work, and like how do we start to pull together what is successful in meetings, what makes a successful meeting, and then what are some of the alternatives that we can test, what are some of the alternatives that we can test in practice to make some of the stuff work? And that gets me more excited to do some research, to pull in data around some different topics. So let me just talk about how we start to do that. So starting with that's interesting, actually. So starting with what is it that we actually want to solve for? Is it the macro? How does work get done? How do we thrive in the workplace? Might be one, right? It's like, how do we maximize economics, right? How do we how do we, make the most both internally and externally? How do we start aligning incentives for people, right? I think that's another one. How do you start aligning incentives? An interesting road to start to go down. So in the Amazon world, I'm getting this from the book Working Backwards, which was kind of based on the way that Amazon worked, which was starting with principles. What are the principles that we're starting to operate under, making sure that those permeate through the whole organization. Then there's single-threaded teams. There's teams that are focused on one thing, and I think that is very, very important. Focusing on one goals, focusing on one goal, and then and with the incentives aligned with the right amount of success, and then with metrics that are produced that are independent of what's actually getting created. So when you start having those things in place, then you have the right setup for success. When any of those things are not necessarily in place, now that's where you have the opportunity for individual contributions to be able to be able to produce results. Specific results that are focused on specific results that are focused on making those results happen. So what is the I'm looking at how do we go from a walk this morning to actually from a walk this morning to coming up with what are the questions that we want to get answered, making sure, getting some validation that we've got the right questions that we want to get answered, looking what information is out there, finding what the gaps are in the information that's out there, and then starting to fill those gaps with some additional information. And how do we do all of that while walking and talking, right? On the phone. And I think it starts with verbalizing the framework around this type of verbalizing the framework first, and verbalizing the framework first, and then actually executing on the framework on the back end. And it's probably doing some supplementation of just phone time with computer time. With computer time, and it's also probably involving other people in the conversation after the fact, right? And then, how do we start to, what are the ways? Should probably take a look at the book Idea Flow. Now that I'm thinking about that, what are the ways just to have ideas flow into some sort of meaningful reality on the back end. So I said I was going to go 30 minutes. Then I said I was going to go 20 minutes on this. I might just cut this one off at 13 minutes and 25 seconds. I'm going to move into doing some research on the book Idea Flow and start representing some of the strategies and the methodologies that go into that. And I think there's a chance to do a single type of methodology, but I think it's also applying the right sort of techniques and methodologies at the right time. So what I'm going to do after this is I'm going to take this video, I'm going to download this video, I'm going to upload it to Otter.ai. That will give me that's going to give me the transcript on the back end, which will give some early indications of what is some of the stuff that we actually want to work on. I'm going to connect that with what I know in my head. I think that's the important thing. I'm going to connect that with what we know in my head is the stuff that we're actually going to be working on during the day. And I want to start having some convergence of, hey, here's the stuff that I'm working on that I think is important, it's like in the moment. And then here's the stuff that is that I have to be involved with, right? I'm going to be doing some volunteering this evening, so that is something I have to do. That's not something that can be done in partnership with AI. Now, somebody else can do it, but that's the human piece. My daughter has to go to the doctor today. That's something I've got to do. Or I get to do, I should say. That's something that is for me to do, not something that is being done on the. That's not something that is being done that can be done through any use of technology. Now we can do some more virtual visits. That's an option to do. But if we're we've got to be in the places where we can be, where we can make the biggest amount of impact, both on ourselves and on other people. So I'm going to leave that one here right now. Thanks a lot for listening, and have an amazing day. All right.